As you can see, there's only 3 Splatoon games. Is 1 week really going to be a challenge to 100% them all? Simply beating the single-player campaigns isn't a problem, but going for 100% is an entirely different story. So let's just jump into it, starting with Splatoon 1. To 100% this, I need to beat the main campaign, beat all 60 amiibo levels, collect all 27 sunken scrolls, and fully upgrade the hero shot and sub-weapons. Say what you will about the Wii U, but I still love this gamepad. It's stupid and clunky and dumb after what the Switch has given us, but I still think it has its charm. At least it doesn't have Joy-Con drift, and a D-pad that doesn't completely suck. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Pro Controller. What do you have to say for yourself? Guilty! The buttons still feel crisp to press, and I was honestly having a good time at the beginning. Going back to Splatoon 1 was surprisingly jarring. I played so much of this game when I was in college. I can't tell you how many late nights I had playing with friends when I should have been studying or sleeping. Whenever I hopped into a multiplayer level, I was blasted with nostalgia, which is terrifying because this is not that old of a game. It's only 9 years old. I've got a lot of fun memories with Splatoon 1, but it's definitely got its quirks. First off, you jump with X for some reason. I completely forgot they changed the jump button, and of course there's no way to change it to be like every other video game where you can jump. There's also a lot of missing moves, like squid jumping from Splatoon 3. I've become so accustomed to squid jumping through the ink in Splatoon 3, so not being able to do it made the gameplay feel slightly more sluggish. There's also no way to control the speed of your camera. And then we've got the graphics. I mean, they aren't bad, but they're definitely worse. There's a lot less detail in the environments and models. Now, obviously, this is older hardware, so that makes sense, but I really didn't notice a difference until actually going back to this game again. So what exactly is our goal here? We're not going to unlock everything in multiplayer because 1, that's designed to take years to do, and 2, the Wii U doesn't have internet anymore. Unless I got Pretendo working, but that's besides the point. I just need to fully complete the single-player levels, which, as you can tell, is pretty straightforward. I just gotta get to the end of each level, and also find the hidden sunken scrolls, which, for whatever reason, a lot of them were hidden underneath ramps. It was a weird trend I noticed. Most of these scrolls are pretty easy to spot, which is nice, and I like how they add to the lore of the Splatoon franchise. The levels themselves are just fine. They're not bad to play, but they aren't memorable. There's some clever platforming here with things like shooting a sponge with ink to inflate its size, or this little Roomba guy that eats your ink on the walls while you have to try to make a path to climb the wall. It's not a bad campaign by any means. It's just one of those one-and-done deals where you play the levels and have a good time and forget what you played when it's over. And guess what? Half of the campaign doesn't have unique levels. No, they pulled a bunch of multiplayer stages on top of that. It's kind of cool to play the multiplayer levels while taking out a bunch of octolings that are all pitted against you, but this is a huge chunk of the single player. It made me realize that the budget for the first Splatoon must have not been that big, because single player nowadays would never do something like this. Maybe I'm the first to say this, but the hub worlds are really underappreciated. They're kind of like mini levels within themselves. You really have to go out of your way to find the entrances to each level. And after you find said level, you can just warp there whenever you want, meaning it won't be a headache to revisit. But the highlight of the campaign is by far the bosses. They're incredibly easy, but really creative and fun at the same time. The Octostomp is iconic. It's a big old stamp that tries to smush you down. But I've always liked Octomaw. You gotta shoot this guy's teeth to not only survive, but also make an opening to throw a bomb into his mouth. And then of course, DJ Octavio has the sickest beats out there. I used to consider him to be the best Nintendo boss of all time. That is until the Switch came out, and things have gotten more ridiculous. After defeating the Octobot King, I wasn't quite done yet. As I've been going through these levels, I've also been collecting these orange orb eggs. These eggs are used to upgrade my hero shot and sub-weapons. However, I wasn't even close to fully upgrading everything yet. So you know what that means? It's time to farm some eggs! I basically just replayed the very last level a ton of times. This is a multiplayer stage that doesn't have octolings, but instead an Octostriker will try to nuke me with ink every 6 seconds or so. So I played the level a few times and started to figure out a solid route. I was using bombs to break open things eggs before I got there, and position myself in a way that I could predict where the ink strike was going to show up. I could also get bonus orbs by holding onto my armor and holding onto a special, so I made sure to collect those as well. On average, I was getting around 120 eggs per run, and the level only took a couple minutes to complete. However, I needed a total of 8,100 eggs. I've already upgraded my hero shot and bought a few sub-weapons, but I still had to get 3,956 eggs. So I was quite a ways off, but that's okay. Splatoon is such a fun game to play, so I didn't really mind grinding the eggs out. The only issue at this point was that my hands were starting to cramp. This is honestly pretty concerning. I play with the motion controls, so I'm constantly twisting my wrist around, and it's probably not good for them after such long stretches of time. Here I was praising the Wii U gamepad 5 minutes ago. Now it's causing me physical pain, so good job on that one. To prevent destroying my hands completely, I would let go of the controller whenever the game was loading, and eventually I managed to get all the eggs I needed. But we weren't done yet. Next was the amiibo. I still remember how controversial these amiibo were at the time. What's the reason? Well, they each contain exclusive levels that you can't play normally. Yeah, no, that's not true. These are literally the same goddamn levels. The only difference is you either use a different weapon, or the level is tied to some sort of challenge. The Squid amiibo, as an example, has levels where you have to clear it without refilling ink, or before the time runs out. Hell, you play as the Squid special for most of the levels and just completely annihilate everything in your path. This was the dim light of what Splatoon single-player stages would eventually become. So even though I had to play 60 levels, I didn't have to worry about orbs or scrolls, and at least there was some weapon variety. But once I finished that, I was completely done with Splatoon 1. It took a total of 7 hours on the dot to complete, which was a lot longer than I anticipated. I didn't realize how long it was going to take to grind out the orbs, but that's okay. This was pretty simple to get through. Next up, we have Splatoon 2. Oh no. To 100% this, I need to beat the main campaign with all weapons, collect all 32 Sunken Scrolls, 37 Sardinium, and fully upgrade all weapons and sub-weapons. I'll be doing the Octo expansion as well, but more on that later. Now, I don't know how many of you caught what I just said, but I have to play the main levels with every weapon. There's 9 freaking weapons, which means I'm basically playing the base single player 9 times in a row. This equates to playing a grand total of 288 levels. And this is just the base game. The DLC is also a behemoth. I think you can see why this is a 1-week challenge and not like 3 days. It's gonna take a damn long time to 100% everything. This is where the real struggle begins. But hey, it's nice to be playing Splatoon 2. I've literally sunk like 900 hours into this. It was my comfort game between 2018 to 2020. I played it just about every night for an hour or two. I mean, look, I freaking prestiged on my save file. If you're a hardcore Splatoon fan, you already know how long it takes to reach this. Although, honestly, I was mostly playing Salmon Run. But anyway, moving on, the Pro Controller is a lot more comfortable to hold, and the overall movement feels a bit smoother. You can also control the speed of the motion and camera, which is a freaking godsend. I feel like I can actually move at the speed that I want to. The game also looks so much better, and clearly a bit more budget was poured into this. Everything looks more detailed and refined, and the texture quality is much cleaner. And look at that! They made the roller good! You can do vertical tosses when jumping in the air. Like, I can't begin to explain how nice this is. Climbing up walls no longer sucks. But as for the actual levels, well, they're kinda similar to Splatoon 1. You once again go from point A to B, but there's a lot of new elements in the stages themselves. One of the highlights by far is the ink rails. You basically grind on some ink like we're in Sonic Adventure 2, and you can also shoot at the same time. This leads to a bunch of levels where you can shoot balloons and jump in the air to go through onion rings for eggs. Oh, and I guess the onion rings are new too? Very funny, Nintendo, haha, I get it, onion rings, squid, funny. You've also got these glowing light hook things that you shoot and you get launched to that spot when you hit it. It's very satisfying. It feels like each stage is more interesting overall, but still isn't all that exciting. Although I do have to say that the bosses are a big improvement. They're still innovative and fun to fight, but the difficulty has been upped a little bit. Now, they aren't crazy hard or anything, that was saved for the DLC, but at least I have to put in a bit more effort to clear them. I also just love the toaster oven. Like, it's such a silly concept, yet its mechanics work perfectly for Splatoon. And hey, the scrolls in Sardinium are better hidden as well. Some of these really stumped me. Like, there's this one that's perched on top of a wall that you can't ink to climb up, so you have to very specifically break this one box to climb up and get it. I really like that they're harder to get this time around. Now, I hate to say this, but it's a bit disappointing that there's still multiplayer stages. But I guess I get it. This game did come out very shortly after Splatoon 1. Nintendo wanted to get this out within the launch year of the Switch. And at least we got Moray Towers in here, the nuke town of Splatoon. The hub worlds also take the same idea as Splatoon 1, where they're a bit of a puzzle, which is nice and all, but World 5 went way too far. Dude, look at how freaking big this level is. It's not fun to traverse in the slightest. You spend 80% of the time waiting around on these saucers, and you got this entire invisible section, and it's just the worst. But at this point, I've gotten all the collectibles and finished the final boss, which, man, talk about underwhelming. You just shoot the fists again, and after that, you're in this grind rail circle firing Rainmaker shots. It's definitely one of the final bosses of all time, that's for sure. But there we go, I finished the main game. Only 8 more playthroughs to go! Woo! Me. As boring as it's gonna be, at least all these are easy. The challenge comes down to time itself. It has nothing to do with actual difficulty. So what I figured would make this go by the fastest is to just replay one level at a time and get all the weapons at once. The idea is that I would learn the level and then be really proficient in the last few runs. I did this for the first stage and then went to bed. Look, I recorded for over 15 hours today, so it was a long one. But I'm feeling ready for tomorrow. The grind is about to begin. Guys, my day's gonna go crazy today. I'm gonna sit in one spot, play Splatoon 2 levels several times over. Wow! Yeah, these marathons are no stranger to Grindfest. Mario Kart 7 had me farming coins for 2 days straight. But compared to that, at least this is a lot more engaging. I put my plan into play and started going through one level at a time. As I was playing, I'd periodically go back and upgrade my stuff too. Now, as you'd expect, you can still upgrade your weapons and sub-weapons, but this time you can upgrade all the weapons, which means I need a total of 17,800 power eggs to fully upgrade everything. That might sound daunting, but let's not forget that I will have to play the levels a billion times over, so I'm not gonna need to worry about egg farming at all. I will definitely get enough eggs by just playing. Last night, I did some quick math and figured that each level would take about 30 minutes to beat, which means I might only spend 13 hours doing this. However, I didn't take into account that a lot of these levels are lengthy. In fact, just the second level took me 45 minutes to finish with every weapon. It is insane that this is even a requirement. In fact, the game rewards me for doing this later on. But for now, it was all about the playing, the gaming, the sweating, the inking. The only other thing I could really strategize at this point was the weapon upgrades themselves. There's some weapons like the Charger and Blaster that I'm super bad with, so I upgraded those first so they'd be a bit more useful. I'm also glad that I could get through the multiplayer and boss levels quickly. It made the drone of the day go by a bit faster. But man, today got so mind-numbingly boring that I was forgetting what level I was even playing half the time. My brain was set to limbo mode, which led me to having some thoughts. And some of these thoughts got a little deep. See, this has been a weird year so far because I really felt like I lost a sense of purpose. And I didn't know why for the longest time, but I think I finally figured it out. I'm constantly being told to take breaks and relax more often. While that's not really how I roll, I really took that to heart this year. I've been uploading a lot less and working less hours and spending more time with hobbies, which are things I haven't really done in several years. And once I started to take more time off work and just relax, that's when I started to feel off and lost. But you want to know when I feel like myself and like I'm on top of everything? When I'm recording these marathons. Yes, they're tiring. Yes, they're exhausting. Yes, they're a bit painful sometimes. But I have a set schedule, and I have so much to do. Now, obviously, playing a game all day isn't that hard, but trying to get through massive amounts of content on a time limit is challenging. In order to feel fulfilled, I have to set goals and put in the hours to reach those goals. Living mindlessly is something I believe a lot of people struggle with, and that can often lead to depression and anxiety. So I guess the point in saying all of this is that fulfillment, for me at least, is achieved by setting goals and setting yourself up to make progress. Now, what does that have to do with Splatoon 2? Absolutely nothing, but this was what was running through my head today. You want to know how far I got, by the way? I cleared worlds 1 through 4. Yes, I didn't even get through all the levels. That is how long this takes. But honestly, that's alright. I've been feeling more at peace recently, and I'm ready to keep this train rolling. But also, level 19. I had to stand on these Roomba things and watch them clean up messes and go the wrong way 8 times in a row. This level was super annoying, just gotta say that. Want to guess how long it took to finish up the base levels? Only a measly 5 hours. Yeah, 5 hours. By the time I was done, I wasn't even that excited. It was just such brain rot to play every level so many times over, but it's finally done. We can move on to the best part of the game, the Octo expansion. To 100% this, I just need to beat the main campaign with all weapons. This equates to beating 226 levels. So while that's a ton of levels to do, I was stoked. This DLC just might be the best DLC Nintendo has ever put out for any of their games. The vast amount of quality that's been added is just crazy. First off, we're playing as Octolinks now, which is pretty cool. The music is all completely brand new, and it absolutely slaps. And then the best part is that all the levels are fantastic. The word of the day here is variety. Every single level has a unique gimmick in its own range of difficulty. There's no hard mode or anything like that. No, it all comes down to the weapons. Most levels require us to beat them with 2 or 3 weapons. These weapons are methodically picked to make a level pretty easy to insanely difficult. We've got these 8-ball missions where we have to knock 8 balls around and try to prevent them from falling. There's quite a few grind rail missions where you have to hit every target as you fly by them. These in particular are super satisfying. The boss fights have been remade to be much more difficult than the base game versions. Then you've got missions where you fly around in a jetpack the whole time. And then you're in a hamster ball where you can charge up walls and explode on command. Then you've got other missions where the stage rotates and you have to find glowing rods and it feels like you're inside a little puzzle box. Oh, and did I mention that the CPUs aren't stupid anymore? Funny, the Octolings in Splatoon 1 was a complete joke. In this game, they were actually kicking my ass a bit. Like, oh my god, the Splatoon devs were not playing around. They truly put their all into this. The sheer amount of variety is staggering, which was really nice because I was on the verge of falling asleep before. Now I'm wide awake and sprawling into action. There are still some multiplayer stages reused, which is a little unfortunate, but at least they're more exciting this time. We've got a Rainmaker version where you gotta get the Rainmaker to the end all by yourself, and the same goes for tower control. I should also note that just in general, I don't think it's a bad thing to reuse assets for different parts of a game. In fact, it's a really efficient use of time. The only reason I don't mind this for the Octo expansion is because all the other levels are so much more enjoyable, and there's significantly more unique stages. It was honestly really nice to get stumped. Right Round Station in particular was giving me trouble. I had to take out a bunch of snipers and stuff, and the challenge came from the super strict time limit. The first 2 weapons weren't a problem, but the Rapid Blaster Pro sure was. The enemies take extra hits since the weapon's not that strong, and I had to keep hitting this target to rotate everything, but then the rotation was really fast and I would get sniped and I would die, and holy crap, it felt amazing to finally clear. This one was really giving me the struggles. Oh my god! Oh my god, how close was that? I was 0.03 seconds away from losing. I'm not kidding. This game offers some heat, and I'm all about getting toasted up in this battle. As we're going along, I also need to collect parts for a blender, which of course we're taking selfies with because blenders are badass, but that's about as far as I got today. It takes quite a while to play all these levels, so I was gonna have to wrap up tomorrow. Breaking news! Bathaniel announced that the successor for the Switch is real! Congratulations to all the channels that have been spamming Switch 2 rumor videos for the past 5 years! Wow, you were finally correct! Anyway, today is going to be a much harder day. While I've mostly breezed through Octo Expansion, I haven't really touched any hard levels yet. This was the first time I was going to have to deal with some actual difficulty. And if you've played the game before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But before that, I still have some great things to say about it. Remember those annoying Roomba levels where the robots didn't cooperate? Well, they're back in Octo Expansion, but this time they're stuck on set paths, meaning they'll actually work as intended. Like I said, the devs really went out of their way to make these levels as enjoyable as possible. We also finished getting all the blender pieces, which led to us almost getting blended to death. Oh, Jesus! Oh, but hey, look at that. Ex Machina Agent came in to save the day, so it's all good. And just like that, it was finally time to take on the final boss. All the sections leading up to it are so damn great. It does such a great job leading up to the finale. You start off with no weapons, so you have to play stealthy and get around without getting spotted. Eventually, you do find your weapons again, but then you jump around these floating cubes that are right above deadly water, and you have to avoid all these lasers and go all James Bond and shit. Then you've got this huge level with a bunch of data posts that have to be destroyed, and you navigate that using the inkjet. And oh my god, the final boss is fucking amazing. The music is just infectiously catchy and hypes you up, and you gotta blow up these huge bombs before the time limit runs out. This entire segment just makes you feel all giddy and excited. I don't know how else to describe it. So after a couple of deaths, I cleared that, Pearl did the big booyah to finish things off, and the final boss was done. But I still had some levels to play, and I've saved the hardest for last. To start, I ran into this really funny glitch where this boss pounced for like 5 seconds, but then Matchmaster Station. Oh yeah, you all knew this was coming. We gotta match the shape again, but this time we're given a bit of a clue. Just break the orange boxes. I mean, how hard can that be, right? With the squeezer and splat charger, it's not too bad. You just have to be careful with your shots. But the Rapid Blaster Pro is an entirely different beast. This weapon has, let's just say, a bit of a blast radius. So that means we need to somehow break the orange boxes without accidentally breaking the brown ones. Just looking at this footage, you can already see why this is the scariest thing ever. It's literally impossible to avoid inking the wrong boxes, so you have to very meticulously plan out which boxes to break and at what angles. A lot of boxes have to be broken in the corners to prevent splash damage, and you just have to hope that you don't miss a shot. This stage is known as one of the hardest in the game, and for good reason, but I somehow beat this on the second try. Yeah, I don't know how, but that's just what happened. Which is crazy because this was the only stage and weapon combo that I've never cleared in my life, and I thought I was gonna get stuck here for a while. But okay, second try was the reality, I guess, so I'm not gonna complain. But that wasn't the problem. Oh no, there's another mission that's even harder. Once you've cleared every level, a secret final boss is unlocked. This is a boss fight against Inner Agent 3. And oh boy, this one kicked my ass to the curb, stomped it to the ground, and threw it over a cliff with an inferno underneath it. There's 5 different phases, all of them with different patterns to learn. The first phase, you'll have to avoid a bunch of inkjet attacks. The second phase involves heavy use of the bubble blower. The third has tons of auto bombs, the fourth is tenta missiles, and the fifth and final one is lots of splashdowns. Let's also keep in mind that Agent 3 is always throwing auto bombs in all the phases, and moves extremely erratically. This leads to one of the most intense battles out of all the Splatoon games. In the past, I've cleared this before, but it always took like 30 to 45 minutes. Unfortunately, I'm a bit drained after playing Splatoon for 14 hours a day, and now I'm on day 4, so my motor skills were not up to snuff. So that means that I lost again, and again, and again, and again, and again, and also again. And it got to the point that I was getting extremely frustrated. I had to keep getting up and taking breaks to calm my temper, because whatever I did, I just could not beat this. The main issue was the stupid auto bombs, because their blast radius is massive and they always manage to be out of my eyesight and I don't see them coming half the time. And if you lose your armor, you move twice as slow, which means that in some phases, you will die and there's nothing you can do about it. But the reason I was getting so frustrated was because I'd beaten this before and I've sunk an ungodly amount of time into this game. Like, why can't I just beat it and move on? But I did eventually figure some things out. I was building some muscle memory with how Agent 3 moves. The roll dodges can kind of be manipulated in your favor depending on what side you shoot him at. And the final phase had a pretty cool strategy that I never considered until looking it up. By standing near this rectangle, I could completely avoid the splashdown by just switching from side to side. This made such a huge difference in defending myself. So after 2.5 hours, I finally took him out and was completely done with Splatoon 2. It took me a total of 35 hours and 41 minutes to beat everything. Damn, I felt so defeated in the moment, but also glad that it was over. So now I can move on to Splatoon 3. In order to 100% this, I need to beat the main campaign with all weapons, collect all 29 capsules, 18 Sardinium, 24 Sunken Scrolls, 18 gold records, 7 tickets, and 6 card packs. I also need to fully survey all the site maps, fully upgrade the hero gear, and destroy all the fuzzy ooze. So yeah, Splatoon 3 is packed with content, and this is just the base game. We still have to do side order, but we'll get to that later on. I just gotta say, starting off, it feels amazing to be past the Octo expansion. There's a part of me that is completely down to play the DLC again because I'm obsessed with this game, but I also loathe the idea of redoing the Inner Agent 3 fight. But we've moved on to the third game, we've got some cool new hairstyles, and we got this little guy as well, Small Fry. The level design has a bizarre take this time around. They kind of meshed together what worked with Splatoon 2's base game as well as the Octo expansion. There's quite a few levels that have really creative mission objectives, while others are just about going from point A to B. There's also no multiplayer levels, which is fantastic. And the collectibles aren't in levels anymore. They've all been delegated to the hub worlds, which are somehow even more expansive than the second game. I honestly think this is a way smarter way of going about this. The hub worlds have always been little puzzles, so having a nice balance of speeding through the levels and then exploring the hub worlds a bit deeper is perfect. And new to this game is the fuzzy ooze. We basically need a bunch of eggs so Small Fry will eat the fuzzy ooze for us. This is a really fun concept that allows you to literally expand the hub's horizons. So I decided to just plow through the levels to build up a good egg supply and find collectibles that are out in the open and easy to spot. And also, I can squid jump again! Oh, thank God. I can't believe how much I missed that. Oh, it feels so nice. And I love the music in these levels too. Splatoon always manages to nail the music to match with its atmosphere impeccably. Upgrading the hero gear is very different this time too. It's now laid out as a skill tree. The main difference is you have to unlock access to certain perks with Sardinium and then use your upgrade points to actually get them. These upgrade points are easy to get. You basically just need to play all the levels and you'll get them as you go. I really like this system more than just spending eggs, because it adds a perceived value to the Sardinium. So now I'm incentivized to get eggs and find Sardinium. Well, I guess I'm technically incentivized to do everything, but you get my point. Something I completely forgot about with this campaign is that there isn't a boss at the end of every world. They only have bosses every 2 worlds, which, what game does that remind me of? Well, at least the boss fights are really fun. The best by far is Big Man's, as it's a recreation of Mana Storm from Mario Sunshine. I mean, come on, that's just so freaking awesome to see a callback that fits so perfectly with Splatoon. But in all honesty, I didn't get that far today. I was exhausted after finishing Octo expansion, so I ended the day and rested up. I feel kind of dumb at how mad I was getting at the secret boss, but it's all good. All I can really do is move forward and not give up. The goal today was to get through the rest of Splatoon 3's base game and get some sort of start on the side order DLC. I made it through the first 2 worlds last night, so I just needed to get through the rest. The main focus was really on surveying everything, which at first was a bit confusing. You see all these gray slashes on the map? I have to physically walk over this for it to count as surveyed. And I mean, I quite literally have to ink or walk in all of these areas, which is why I'm constantly inking the ground to ensure that I don't miss any spots. You have to be extremely intricate. You can't just walk roughly near the unknown parts, no, you literally have to walk over every inch. I only emphasize this because I feel it's a little too strict, personally, but at least it helps a lot with finding all the collectibles. I was getting all the scrolls, Sardinium, gold records, and everything else as I was going along. Constantly inking the ground kind of felt like mowing the lawn, and I know that's a weird comparison, but it really is the same idea. Mowing requires you to cut every piece of grass in the vicinity, and this is the exact same concept. As for the gameplay, well, I was starting to get a little tired of it. While there are a good amount of banger levels, a lot of them feel the same as Splatoon 2's base game, which pretty much means that the levels don't do anything unique. But it wasn't a complete snooze fest. At least the final world site wasn't as obnoxious as Splatoon 2's. You gotta take these grind rails around a bunch of buildings, which I honestly found to be pretty fun despite the large scope. It felt a bit more freeing than waiting on the flying saucers for 3 weeks at a time, that's for sure. I eventually finished all the stages, and I just wanted to grab the collectibles that I was missing. I wasn't really sure how to do this quickly, until I realized that I can't read. On the map screen in the top left, there's a key that says Area of Interest and shows which collectibles have been fully found. So all I had to do was go back to the sites that still had green and shoot the ground to find the hidden goodies. How on earth did I never notice this until now? So once I realized that, I spent the next 30 or so minutes throwing small fry everywhere and revisiting each site to collect everything I missed. The only wonky thing I had to do was at Site 2. There was this one tiny sliver that I was not able to reach for whatever reason, so I had to throw a burst bomb in this particular spot, and boom, the sliver was gone. Once that was taken care of, it was time to finish up. The captain goes all Dragon Ball Z mode, and it's almost time to fight Mr. Grizz, the big-ass teddy bear. This portion of the game is very similar to the end of Octo Expansion. You go through a few different sections that'll take away your gear, you have to play stealthy, yada yada yada. It's really damn fun, just like last time. And now we're fighting the bear himself. This final boss is so freaking crazy. You're on this rocket ship that rotates on its sides, and you have to collect the golden eggs from Salmon Run to tear through the fuzzy ooze, and these are also used to hit Mr. Grizz after shooting at his weak spots. Meanwhile, there's tons of enemies, and ink is constantly being splattered towards you. The whole thing is just mayhem. I wouldn't say it's as hype as the Octo Expansion final boss, but it's up there for being really creative and memorable. After hitting the bear a bunch, the rocket explodes and you're sent to space. But then, DJ Octavio comes into the rescue, and Small Fry transforms into a massive fish, and now you're using an ink-powered vacuum hose to suck up more ooze while Huge Fry is tussling with Mr. Grizz. This is the most Japanese anime I've ever seen, and I am so here for it. The premise is so goofy, but it works so well, and the music once again sets the tone perfectly. After beating him, I was completely done with Splatoon 3's base game. Well, almost. Yes, after Alterna, the final level that unlocks after beating the game. Think Champions Road from Mario 3D World, but a Splatoon version of that. After Alterna is an extremely long, challenging, and intense level. But I've played this in the past, so I already had a good idea of what to expect. The only part I was getting stuck on was this final section. I had to fight several Octolings at once, and the final part kept destroying me. They all spam specials at the same time, so I basically had to learn exactly where and when each Octoling spawns so I could take them out before they could attack. After about an hour or so, I cleared the last level and was finally at the last part of this marathon. To 100% Splatoon 3's side order, I need to beat Overloader with all 12 pallets, collect every colored chip, fill out the gelatin field guide, play all 113 floor variants, unlock all of Marina's hacks, and buy everything from Cypher's siftings. This is quite a different beast compared to everything I've played so far, because this is not your average Splatoon campaign. Oh no, this is a roguelike version of Splatoon. If you've played any roguelike games before, you know the entire point is to never actually finish them. The goal is to slowly get incrementally better with the more you play, and the same concept applies to side order. However, there is an actual end goal, but it's gonna take a long time to reach. So long, in fact, that I'm not actually sure if I'll 100% this before the week is up. I played for a couple hours today, and it was getting late, so I didn't go for that long. Before going to bed, though, my chair decided to pull a fast one on me. Look at this, it decided to break. I have no idea why that happened, but the screw holding it together was completely bent, so the chair was ruined. Thankfully, I have a backup chair so I can still sit and do some gaming. The goal today was to complete a lot of the side stuff, which mostly includes filling out this chip collection. Now, if you've never played Side Order, I'm gonna have to explain how it works because it can be a little confusing. The goal is to clear 30 floors, and at the end of that, your score is tallied up and you get some pearls. The pearls you get are based on your score, so let's say you get 1,000 points, that equals 1 pearl. These pearls are required to unlock all of Marina's hacks and also buy everything from Cypher. but I wasn't all that worried about optimizing the pearl amount. I wanted to focus on the colored chips. These chips all do very small things to improve your weapons, speed, defense, specials, and so on. But these chips have to be collected randomly, and you can only get them by actually playing the level assigned to it. However, there's a small handful of chips that only show up with specific weapons. So say you want to improve the roller or splatling, well, you can only find chips to do that when using these specific weapons. All 12 pallets are just different weapons, so the goal was to collect the weapon-specific chips as soon as I saw them. As for the drone chips, well, most of them don't show up until you unlock them through Marines hacks, so I had to do that too before I could get them. And on top of all that, there's the Gelatin Field Guide, and this is very different from everything else in the game. This guide has an archive of every enemy and boss in this mode, and we're required to destroy each of these enemies a specific amount of times. Doing so unlocks more information about each enemy, which is kind of cool, but it also means that I had to keep checking the field guide to see which enemies I needed to focus on. And I haven't really talked about Marines hacks yet. These are incredibly important. This mode is really tough without the hacks. The chips power you up, but are only temporary for each run. Marines hacks, on the other hand, power you up permanently. So if you want to get stronger, have more lives, have higher defense, you need to spend pearls on Marines hacks. And this, my friends, is the beauty of roguelike games. Everything that you do while playing has an impactful role on getting better and better. Even though I look dead inside from being really exhausted, this is right up there with Octo Expansion on the fun factor. It was a lot of fun watching my chip collection grow and making myself stronger and stronger from all of Marines hacks. Although I do have to say, once you have enough hacks turned on, this game becomes super easy. I wish it was a little bit harder still, but I'm still having a good time. So the goal at this point was to optimize what hacks I unlocked, make sure I play a new level when I see it, and try to get as big a variety of chips as possible. This strategy was not netting me a lot of pearls, but I was still making a lot of progress on everything else I needed to do. And something else that was really helpful about all this was that I actually already knew a few different speedrun tactics. A couple months ago, I participated in a charity event run by ProChara, who's a Splatoon creator, and I was lucky enough to work hand in hand with an actual speedrunner of this mode, Wahoo. While I didn't have a lot of time to learn speedrun stuff necessarily, I did learn a few things, like pushing the 8-ball when it's at the goal sucks it in faster, and I can also drone hop through enemy ink to increase my chances of escaping. So I was making small adjustments to my gameplay to get through runs as fast as I could. I was hoping to reach 7,000 pearls today, because I need a grand total of 14,042 pearls to unlock everything. Considering I'm getting 200 to 300 pearls a run, that's a bit of a dilemma, but I figured that if I just kept at it, I would get to that 7,000 mark in no time. After the entire day passed, I managed to acquire every single color chip. I also finished all 12 pallets, so now it was all about pearls. Welp, it's the final day. I officially have less than 24 hours to get enough pearls to unlock everything. But how many pearls are left? Ugh. I added up how many pearls I had left to go, and it was a lot more than I expected. I still needed to get 8,297 pearls. With my current strategy, this would be almost impossible. Until I started looking into other methods. What I was gonna need was floor reset, color chip bias, and vending machine reset maxed out. But more importantly, I'll need to get a lot of orange colored chips. The way the chips work was that if you get the same colors multiple times in a row, you get a multiplier for your score. So let's just say I max out my palette with all the same color. The chain bonus that comes with that will give me 62,900 points on its own, or an incredible 629 pearls. That is way better than my strategy from before. I actually stand a chance to finish side order on time. I can also turn on risky rewards with all my hacks on. I get a 1.1 multiplier, which increases the pearls slightly more. So here's the game plan. I need to select Agent 4's palette because I'm best with splatter shots, but also because the most common tone is orange. I need to select the orange color every single time, no matter what. If there's no orange colors available, then I need to use a floor reset. It's also best to avoid the vending machine unless I have 3,000 or more membucks, because I want to get orange chips from there as well, and purchase bonus pearls. That's why we need the vending machine reset maxed out too. Resets are expensive if they aren't maxed out. So with this newfound strategy, I actually stood a chance to beat this entire challenge. But the time was ticking, and it was still gonna be a close call. I also haven't finished the gelatin field guide yet. There were a few enemies that I had to focus on taking out, but could it be done? Could we get enough pearls and finish this marathon? Yes, it is over! Despite the odds, we somehow managed to complete all 3 of these games before the week was up. It took a total of 33 hours and 30 minutes to fully beat Splatoon 3. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a bit surprised it was possible. And that wraps up the next marathon. It feels weird to say this, but I'm actually kind of ready to play Splatoon again. I'll probably never touch the single player again, but the multiplayer is still really relaxing and fun to play, so despite how long I just played this, I'm feeling eager to play it still. I hope you all enjoyed this, and I'll be back again soon with another marathon in a few months, so don't get too spooked when you see it drop in your feed. Alright, thanks for watching, guys.